All right, this next young man is a good friend of mine, someone that I've been privileged to be in a little bit of a mentor relationship over the years. Vicar Carlos Valazquez is at Casa San Pablo in Orange, connected with St. Paul Lutheran Church in Orange. He also is a student here in the cross-cultural ministry program. And we didn't get you a microphone. That would be helpful. Jonathan, we're on yellow here for him. And tell us just a little bit about yourself. Where you came from, what your... you have a pre-seminary life, your family. Help us know you a little bit.
Thank you. Thank you for having me, President Gibson. It's really honored to be here, and thank you for our brothers in Lutheran Damien League. I was born in Mexico City, and I'm married with Erica, my wife, from the last 12 years, and we have a beautiful and messy family, and that we just moved from Mexico City 5 years ago to Southern California. So we have the great opportunity to serve a Latino community in Orange County. And we are so privileged to as well serve in my vicarage in St. Paul Lutheran Church in Orange under the leadership of Pastor Scott Christensen from the last 5 years, I would say.
Now, before coming, you, if I remember correctly, you were an attorney.
Right.
So you have all that background and such as you do. So welcome into this setting now. Tell us a little bit about, as we think about reaching out into our Hispanic or Latino neighbors, what are things we need to know about those generational realities? And, we have first generation, second generation, third generation. How do we connect in the midst of that variety of generations?
This is a good question. I think that, well, it's important to know some good numbers here. And I checked the webpage of census.gov and with incredible numbers. Basically, if 57 million of in the U.S. are Latino or Hispanic, 57 million people. And for that amount, 15 million just live here in California. So Hispanics, Latino are the nation's largest ethnic or racial minority. And basically, one of each 5 people in the U.S. are Hispanics, almost 80%. And so when you talk about Latino or Hispanics, it's a wide picture about who the Latinos are. So it's well known that the Mexicans, it's almost the 65%. The people identified who have roots with Mexico, but also there are 35% of different Latinos that came from Central America, Puerto Rico, Cuba, Guatemala as well. So I really liked the approachment that Dr. Juan Martinez, he's Vice President of Hispanic Studies in Fuller Theological Seminary, who says that basically to understand the different generations, we need to understand the way that they identify, assimilate the Latino culture. So we have the first generation for sure, and they are basically the strong Latinos. I have some notes here. Wait a second. So they basically they have strong trails of Latino culture. They grew up in places like Texas or Southern California, so they still live in Latino neighborhoods, and they really enjoy to be closer to the community. That would be the nuclear Latinos, that's the name. And the second group is the biculturals. The biculturals are people who were born here, but they are they understand the rules between two cultures. So they switch back and forth. They can really move comfortable in both worlds. But basically, it lives according to the patterns of the majority culture. And the third group could be the people who are fleeing from his culture. They don't want to be related with Latino culture. They really even doesn't like to speak Spanish, even in the home, or teach Spanish to their kids. So anyway, they feel identified with some cultural traits, but they don't feel safe to express the cultural in opening settings, I would say.
One of the things that we've talked a lot about in our district is the encouragement to congregations that you don't have to speak Spanish to do Hispanic ministry. And some of that has to do with how many generations of Hispanics are in the U.S. today. And talk a little bit about using English as a way to connect into our Hispanic communities with those younger generations.
Yeah. I think that the Spanish is useful, but it's not essential. I will say that from that amount, the survey community reveals that 35% of that 57 million of Latinos are foreign born, is the way. So be patient, please, with my English. But basically, there are a big amount, 65% of Latinos, that they are fluent speakers. So what is more necessary is to have a kind of a cultural bridge with them. So we need to be aware or pray for a companion along to witness with them. For example, I'm thinking myself, 5 years ago, I needed a cultural bridge in order to learn more about American culture. I thought that I knew by movies and TV shows about American culture, but it was not true. I learned a lot, but really living out and walking with people who really blessed me, being patient and show me the American culture. So, as also to be close to Latino culture, you need some people to walk along with you, being cultural bridges.
So very similar as we were talking with Stella, relationship. Because Hispanic culture is very definitely strong family, right, in those connections.
Right.
So, just a question here. We talked earlier also with Stella, but the idea around shame and honor in culture, and what does that look like in the Latino culture world?
We also are a collectivistic culture. I will say that shame and honor are present in our relationships. I think that the concept of family is also very important for us. So when we talk about honor among Latino, it's really connected the way that they can help sometimes their relatives in Mexico, how they can maybe help to buy a tractor to the family or the brother to work the field. When you talk about honor, they really enjoy the way that the kids have progress in school. So that's the way to honor them. And in the other side, the shame is related with the background, with their past. Many of them are fleeing from their country because they want to have a new and fresh start. So many of them had households with alcohol problems, or they were abused kids. So I think the Latinos are really good to cover all these spiritual narratives. So we are a collectivistic culture, and we want to engage and connect with the Latino community. We need to be able to be patient and walk with them in order to uncover these spiritual narratives and extend them and honor them, getting to know their family and watching pictures with them and listen to great stories about his little town in Mexico. Yeah. Or in other Latino countries as well.
Sure. I remember not too many years ago in serving a congregation, Someone said to me when we were talking about Hispanic outreach and ministry, well, we don't need to do that because they have their own church. They're all Catholics. One of the things I've learned is that so many of the Latinos today are not necessarily Catholics. So the door is, as we talked earlier, the door is open for conversations. How might we be able to engage our Latino friends who have some faith background? Because like a lot of us, there's cultural Christianity that's in there. How could we step into those conversations in that setting?
Yeah. Well, I think we just need to keep it simple, but prayerfully intentional. Let me share with you briefly my story. I am the older brother of a family of 5 members. My father was a Christian, not very connected with any church, an unchurched Christian. My mom grew up as a traditional Roman Catholic person. So I was baptized, I received Holy Communion, but then I didn't show it up in church after that. And myself, I did questions about life and death, and I had the opportunity to talk with people, Jehovah's Witness, and some nuns in my elementary school, but something in my soul was just maybe listening, like I have a good and moral life. I had a God in my life. So someday, when my father's brother, who had some struggles with addictions and alcohol, showed up in our home and started to talk about Jesus Christ. And it was amazing how he started to talk about Jesus as someone real. Someone who you can just drink a cup of coffee and talk daily basis. So we were so impacted about my uncle's story. And we accepted to go to church. And he basically invests every single week, driving 2 hours in the Mexico City to take us and go to church another hour. So it was for some weeks. So basically he was witness for us. But also the church, the faith community was so important because, it was the Holy Spirit for sure working in our life and through the Word and also through the worship. But we found out a warming, welcoming community and a kind people, able to listen our own story. So in our case, I will say, look who around you, the Holy Spirit, God is working in them already, and start to pray for that people. I mean, there are people who need to listen at this moment, a message of peace, and we are called by God to be agents of reconciliation.
So if I have a Latino neighbor, what do I do? Invite them out for tacos, or how do I initiate that relationship? First of all, I'm going to take him to some American Mexican restaurant, and I'm going to be offending. How do I do that without looking stupid? I mean, how do we do this relationship in such a way that gives a chance for a second conversation?
Well, a good starting could be ask for a good recommendation for a good tacos place. Start for that. Homemade. So, for me, it was incredible to see more places where sell tacos than places where sell hamburgers. And in California. So a good starting is to, for example, if you like, Mexican marketplaces, start to create relationship with them. So just be an active listener, an active culture learner, and they will feel honored because we are not so different, President Gibson. I mean, than you. We also have dreams, we have goals, we have struggle in a secularism society, and I think that we are not so different in many senses. So if you show some interest and you offer dignity and respect for all these hard-working people, you are following the door that God is opening for you and for every single person that want to be Christ's witness to them.
Brother, I thank you so much for your sharing today.